As you may know, I've recently launched a digital course. It's one of those do it yourself in your own time courses. And with the course, one of the things everybody gets is to ask me questions. And once a week, I answer them in Facebook, in a Facebook Q&A. The questions I got this week were so awesome that I wanted to share them with you guys. So here they come. And if you're interested in joining the course, I'll put the link in the comments. Great, let's dive in. The first question I got was such a powerful one. I imagine that most people watching this video are going to be saying, hell yes, me too. And the question is, I've got the scary, you're going to gain weight headworms. Can anyone help? Yes, I can. Yes, I can. So did you notice first up that the headworm was predicting the future? You are going to gain weight. It's kind of an all or nothing, guaranteed going to happen no matter what you do. There's no possible way there's any way out. And headworms tend to do that. They tend to be predicting the future, and the future is very scary, and it's the worst case scenario. So first up, you're going to bust that headworm just by asking, is it true that you're definitely going to gain weight? Is that guaranteed? Or are you just guessing we're going to gain weight? And then the other option is, what are the other options? Maybe I stay the same weight, or maybe I even lose weight. Are any of those a probability as well? Open up your mind to all the possibilities of recovery. It might feel like there's an inevitability of weight gain. Maybe you're binging and you're not purging. So that feels like that would be inevitable, right? So let's just open up the possibility to all things being possible instead of it being guaranteed. So if you hear that headworm again, just say, how do you know? Like, I can't be sure I'm going to gain weight. Maybe tomorrow everything turns around for me and I lose weight in this process. We don't know. So just open up some wiggle room for other things being true, because this is what happens. When we give our brain the possibility that that belief isn't true, that there might be other beliefs that could also be equally true, we begin to come up with other ways of tackling a problem. We begin to open ourselves to other ways of doing recovery and doing the daily grind and getting through binge urges. And so it's really important to shake these headworms up. Like, who the hell told you I'm going to definitely gain weight? It's madness, okay? Because of course we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. I'll give you a classic example from somebody that I'm working with at the moment. She was going off to a big family feast. Anyway, on the morning of this big event, she made the mistake of weighing herself. And what happened? She put on a couple of kilos. She completely freaked out. And then she ended up in a big binge and purge. And I'm sure many of you can relate to that. Yeah. Just getting on a scale can destroy a perfectly good mood. And that's exactly what happened to her right before she was going to go to a big event with loads of food. So what happens? She binges and she purges. The big fear before this event was that there was going to be so much food there that it was going to be hard not to binge. That was the fear, and we prepared for that. As it turned out, she got to the event and they didn't get served for ages. And when they did, the pickings were so slim that by the time she got home, she was absolutely starving. So ironically, that 2 kilos that she was petrified about and had made this decision that she was gaining weight and it was going to keep going and there was never going to be an end in sight, that very day, the universe gave her an opportunity to essentially lose weight, not by choice. We don't know what's out there for us. In this instance, I wanted to use that example of how you can challenge that headworm, because in truth, the headworm can't be sure. You could become ill tomorrow and not want to eat for a week because you got flu. We don't know what's going to happen. And so we may as well put our attention onto what we want. So the question is, what do I want to think? Because whatever I choose to think is most likely to manifest. Remember old Henry Ford said, if I think I can or I think I can't, I'm probably right. Well, no, he actually says, if I think I can or I think I can't, I'm right. And it's the same as if I think I will or I think I won't, I'm right. So the challenge when you hear that fear bubbling up is to zip it and say, I choose to believe that I will find a way to have what I would like. And if your heart of hearts would like that you at least don't gain weight, that you stay where you are, or if your heart of hearts, you might even like to lose weight in recovery, then by God, put that in there. The way you will not be losing weight is through restriction. And we know that because that's one of the behaviors we must nip in the bud if we're going to recover. But we don't know what's out there for us. And in so many cases, once you start listening to your body, a lot of people do lose weight. Is there a little bit of weight gain in the beginning for some people? Yes, absolutely. So I want to get honest with this headworm. There's a chance that you might gain a bit of weight. Will it be endless? Will you balloon out of control into obesity if you actually listen to your body? No. When you're truly listening to your body, you will be guided to health. If I were you, I would choose to wire in some facts. I might gain a bit of weight. We don't know. I might lose weight. I might gain some weight. And if I do, I will be okay with it because it's worth a little bit of gain for long-term pleasure. It's worth a little bit of pain for long-term pleasure. Absolutely. Keep your mind focused on what you want. And if you have to go through a little weight fluctuation now in this process, it's worth it. So I know the headworm is scary. I know that there's fear behind it. If I gain weight, I'll be rejected. Nobody will love me. I'll be unattractive. But your job is to find something that you can get behind that would make you feel truly strong and empower you to keep making good decisions, even when it's hard. If your instinct is saying you might need to put on a few kilos in recovery, then get real with that now. And we must get real with it in our heads. And if your instinct is saying you'll probably land right where you are, that's probably exactly what will happen. And if your instinct is saying you'll probably lose weight in recovery, well, then that's exactly what's going to happen. So listen to the truth of what's coming up for you. And if you have to have a bit of weight fluctuation while you're learning how to listen to your tummy, how to get through binge urges, how to give yourself radical permission, all of these beautiful skills of recovery, if you have to have a little weight fluctuation, well, by God, it's worth it. Because on the other side of a little bit of that is a lifetime of enjoying your body and enjoying your relationship with food and never having to have that weight gain again. And one more thing there, we are going to gain weight in our lives. You will not hit a point where you never have weight gain cycles again. It might just be winter. It might be stress. I'm going through it at the moment. I've gained a few kilos lately because of stress. Absolutely. But I'm not worried because I know my body's going to guide me back to my happy, healthy Goldilocks zone. And I only know that because I've had loads of practice and I've been through this 100 times before, and now I can trust it. So that's what's out there for you. But I promise you, weight fluctuations are coming in the future. And if there weren't weight fluctuations, at the very least, there'll be days where you feel horribly ugly no matter how skinny you are. That is the truth. It doesn't matter who you are, everybody has ugly days. So let's rather be realistic and just soothe those headworms down. Next question, regarding tummy check-ins, how do I differentiate between what my tummy wants and what's just a craving? So, for example, if I feel my tummy is a little hungry and I'm thinking about eating crisps, do I follow that and then drive to the shops to crisps? Or do I apply this to Whole Foods only? Wonderful question. This is my experience and it works every time. When I work with a client one-on-one and we do a tummy check-in, they always get a first instinct, a first feedback. So when you're asking your tummy, are you hungry? Are you full? What do you want? The tummy usually gives you an immediate answer. The problem is the answer isn't always what you want to hear. So first up, what was the first thing that you heard when you checked in and you said, okay, what would I like to be comfortably full until the next check-in point? What was the very first thing that you heard? If you heard crisps, then I would put my money on it that that's actually the craving that needs to be satisfied, that's actually what your tummy wants. Remember, ask your tummy how much of that do you want to be comfortable until we check in again, because it's not about just having endless crisps. It's been getting pretty specific. So maybe it just wants a little handful of crisps, and that's all it needs for the next hour or two. It was just trying to satisfy a need for salt, a need for crunch, a need for something like that. And what's interesting about cravings is they tend to be very specific in that they're salty or savory, or they're crunchy or smooth, or they're hot or they're cold, or it's protein or it's carbs, or it's clearly fruit, or clearly, something like sweet, sugary, very intense. It's usually pretty clear, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that thing. So if my tummy's giving me the the crunchy saltiness thing, and the first thing comes to mind is crisps. If I don't have crisps in the house, I'm gonna have to make a plan, Stan, because if I can drive to the shops and get exactly what my tummy wants, that's wonderful. But in the real world, we can't always give our tummy exactly what it wants, but we can do our best to get as close as possible. So you can offer it some wonderful like crunchy crackers with a bit of hummus, or you can give it alternatives, and you're either going to get a full blown, yep, that would be perfect, that would hit the spot, or you're going to get a, no, that's not really what I wanted at all. You know what doesn't work is if your tummy wants crisps and you pull in there with a big old not allowed, and you go, oh no, you can't have crisps, crisps are bad for you, crisps are terribly unhealthy. I'm not going to deny that modern day highly processed crisps full of all sorts of nasties are healthy. I'm not going to try and pretend they're healthy. But if we come in with a rule like that, we just shut it down, and then we say, no crisps, you're only allowed salad, it's not at all satisfying the need. And all that's going to happen is that binge urge will grow and begin to nag, and eventually you're going to end up headfirst in a bag of crisps, because that's what you wanted at the beginning. So what I found in early recovery is, while you could offer it something different, similar, and healthier, it could work. In early recovery, I've generally found that it's better to get the first instinct and just go with it. And if the first instinct isn't what you want to hear, then you have to be brave and try. And you know what? You're not always going to get it just right. Sometimes it is just these sort of powerfully addictive processed foods that are playing havoc with us. There's no doubt that's a thing. But most of the time, the first thing you get from your tummy is actually what you would like. And the trouble comes in when we start to shut it down with shoulds and not allows and all of that jazz, or we try and replace it with something healthier that actually isn't at all going to hit the actual need. So this is a scary arena, and that's why it's a question I love so much, because here's where the magic happens. Are you going to get it right every time? No. Will you sometimes make a mistake or buy the crisps with good intention and then end up binging anyway? It's possible. Are you going to give it a healthy option and just still feel unsatisfied and then end up in a bag of crisps anyway? It's possible, but you will learn. And I know what happens every time we don't give into the very basics of the craving: crunchy, sweet, hot, cold, savory, all of those things, spicy. When we don't allow that for fear of it being unhealthy, because that's the only option we got in the house right now, then we generally end up in trouble. And I'll give you one quick example. I have such a clear memory of when I checked in with my tummy and I got a clear toasted cheese sandwich. And every part of me was screaming, you can't have toasted cheese, you haven't done enough exercise, blah, 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 who knows what. All the headworms came roaring in. Surely you can have something different. Come on, Helen, just have some celery and hummus, that kind of story. And I ignored it. And what happened? An hour later, all I could think about was the toasted cheese sandwich. And I knew I should have just bloody had it right at the beginning. And I knew it would have satisfied the craving. I'd be getting on with my day. I wouldn't be getting harassed, because I'd had enough practice by then to know that I'd just done exactly what I wasn't supposed to be doing. So if you can trust me on that, you can offer it something similar. It might work. Or you can offer it something totally different, and that probably won't work at all. Do your best to catch that first instinct, and then be calm and ask it exactly how much it wants and give it a try and see if it works. You're going to learn through practice. And this difference between hearing what your body wants versus what your mind starts to kick in with can be very difficult at first. And only through practice will you really begin to refine this. Also, what's really interesting is, initially in recovery, we start to want all the things. As we give ourselves radical permission, we start wanting things that we haven't previously allowed ourselves to even think about, to even go near. So there might be a bit of a child in a candy shop happening at the beginning. But when you buy those crisps, if you have the crisps, you can stay calm and just notice, do I actually enjoy these? Maybe my body's wanting something out of sheer enjoyment because in the past it was scarce. And maybe now I've realized that I don't necessarily actually enjoy these anymore. And next time it'll ask you for something different, because now it's making really calm, informed decisions. So that was a very long answer, but it was a wonderful question, and I hope the answer helps. Okay, next question. How do I differentiate between restriction and choosing not to eat something because I'm mindful that it's highly calorific and unhealthy? That's easy. If you're choosing not to eat something because it's highly calorific and unhealthy, that is restriction. There's a difference between restriction and making healthy choices. It's a little bit of a refined art, but as I said in the last question, when we get a certain urge or a craving coming up for us, we can offer ourselves the same, we can find healthy and unhealthy food that will meet the same need. So you can offer yourself a healthy option as long as it's meeting the need. However, as I said in the last question, in early days, it's better just to allow yourself at first and to play with that offering of healthy food later. But there's nothing wrong with wanting to eat healthily. That would be mad to think that there was something wrong with that. So it's going to be a bit of trial and error. It's a little bit of a difficult arena, but let's open it up for exploration. But I tell you what for sure is restriction, is saying, I'm not allowed that because it's too calorific. Sometimes what you need is calorific. Sometimes you need beautiful, healthy fats, and that's exactly what your body's craving. And if you ate those, you would feel satisfied, you'd feel comfort, you'd enjoy the benefits of feeling full for longer, etc., etc., etc. So highly calorific can be extremely healthy. Sometimes highly calorific is unhealthy. So let's get clear on what we're talking about here. But generally, any kind of I'm not allowed for whatever reason is restriction. So take ownership. I can choose to make good decisions. I can choose to eat mostly healthy foods because I enjoy them and I don't feel deprived. And I love those foods. But every now and again, if I want something that's unhealthy, whether it's highly calorific or not, I can make that choice. And then I've got to learn how to eat those foods and not freak out about them. So there you've got a different quality problem. And when I work it through the 12 skills, we usually look at things like indulgence, being able to make choices that are just sheer indulgence and sheer pleasure and potentially unhealthy, and just enjoy them and let go of all the guilt and shame that comes around them. So that's a whole nother topic, but restriction is always I'm not allowed, and particularly when it's because it's highly calorific, which doesn't even make sense because health and calorific can definitely be on the same page. You go on to ask, in work, I was offered a biscuit that someone specifically brought in for me. And I took one, partially because I felt social pressure, thinking it would be disrespectful if I didn't, but also because I actually wanted one. Great, you saw that you wanted one. I regretted it afterwards because I ended up having a sugar crash and felt so tired and had a headache. I'm actually underlining this, that's so important. That sugar crash, that exhaustion, that headache is your body's way of giving you some information now about what it enjoys and what it's not a big fan of. So it might get that short-term enjoyment from a cookie, but now when you make a choice to have a cookie, you know that there's some pros and cons here. And now you get to make those choices from a much more powerful place in the future because you have an example of how your body reacts to cookies. And when we know what's coming, it's not always so easy to make that choice willingly. And that can be a good thing, especially if it's quote unquote unhealthy, right? I don't know if the cookie is unhealthy or not. I don't know what kind of cookie it was, but let's just make an assumption. So you felt under pressure because she'd offered it to you, but you also recognized you wanted it, but then you regretted it after eating it because of these negative consequences. Brilliant information. Let's keep going. But as the day went on, I knew where they were and they were being eaten by others, and I had thoughts to eat another, but then I also thought I shouldn't because I wanted to lose weight and be healthy. I feel in this specific instance, I was choosing instead of restricting. Yeah. But I think it's not clear at times. I think in this instance, I was choosing instead of restriction. That does sound true for me. There were some negative consequences to making that choice, but it does sound like you really wanted the cookie. And as you know, I'm about radical permission. It's only through giving ourselves permission that we begin to learn and understand these other side effects that these foods have been having on us all along. And then you get to make beautiful and informed decisions in the future. And sometimes we want things that don't always have the best outcomes, and that's okay. You will become better at making good decisions that really work for you. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to lose lockdown weight, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to choose to eat healthily. And you've got a lot of time to do that. Let's just get the disordered thinking sorted first. I always say, just put the weight loss on pause, put worrying about health on pause. Let's first find out what your body does when it's allowed to do what it wants to do. Let's see if that desire for cookies stays, or in 3 months' time, are you still wrestling with an intense desire for cookies, but then all the negative repercussions? But ultimately, this early stage is all learning. So I think you're right. I think you made that out of choice. There were some restrictive thoughts there, but it was coming from a place of internal desire. You recognize that you wanted the cookie. Let's just also tap into that piece about social pressure. It is so true that we feel a lot of pressure to please people by eating the things they've given us, because we trade food as a way of showing love for each other. One of the hardest things in the world is just saying, thank you so much, I'll eat it later, or thank you so much, but I don't eat cookies, or I don't like cookies, or I'm not hungry right now. It has to be true. I think this is the key for recovery, is you never need to ever again make an excuse to eat or not to eat. Because we're learning intuitive eating. If you've checked in and you really wanted that cookie, then great, accept it and enjoy it. If you've checked in and you notice, oh God, I'm not hungry at all, the cookie's the last thing I feel like, but now I'm feeling social pressure to eat it, now is the hard part, and that's to stand up and say, thank you so much, that's so sweet of you, you're amazing. I love this cooking, I'm absolutely stuffed right now, I've just had lunch or whatever the case may be. I'm going to put it to one side, I can't wait to enjoy it later. This piece of not people pleasing, protecting your recovery so much that you need to sometimes let people down, is difficult, but it's a skill we must master, because otherwise what we do is we people please and then we end up in shame and regret and at the very least discomfort, which is completely unnecessary. If you can say no but with love, you're going to be okay. And if somebody gets ticked off with you because you didn't eat their cookie that you didn't ask for, that's their story. That is entirely their story. There was another comment in the comments underneath that question. Somebody was also talking about, when you go out for a meal and now you're trying to eat just to show people that you don't have a disorder. So social pressure comes in here big time. And what I'm going to say is, from now onwards, you check in with your tummy. And if you're hungry, eat, and eat what your body wants, regardless of what everyone else is doing. If everybody's having salad and water and you're the one person that just ordered a Big Mac, well, that's your story, and that will satisfy your hunger. It'll satisfy your need. And if they all want to eat their salad and water, that's their thing. You've got to protect your recovery. And similarly, if you go out and everybody else is having big old meals and you actually realize that you're not hungry, but now maybe you're worried what they might be thinking, what they're thinking, it's their story. Your job is to stand up for your needs. And if you notice you're not hungry and legitimately don't want something on the menu, or maybe you just want something small, they can think whatever they like. They can think, oh, she's got an eating disorder. Oh, she must be dieting. Oh, judgment, criticism. They may even actually think that. They might even actually ask you about it. And you just say, I've just noticed I'm not hungry. It's such a shame. But, such a shame. And over time, people will witness there'll be times when you eat wonderfully, and there are times when you're not hungry. And that's called intuitive eating. And you don't have to impress them, and you certainly don't have to pretend. Either way. So from now onwards, protect your recovery by asking for what you need. And sometimes what you need is to say no. And sometimes what you need is to say, yep, I'll have that thing on the menu, even if everybody else is on a diet. Each circumstance is unique. But this piece of not succumbing to social pressure, say no, but with love. Each to their own. Their story is their story. It's going to take practice, because we do get enmeshed in everybody's stories and what they think of us. And of course, we want to be accepted. We want to belong. But in this instance, it's absolutely imperative to protect your recovery by asking for what you need. And that's it. Okay. Next question. We've got 2 questions. Question number 1. I'm having a bit of a challenge with the tummy check-in. When feeding the family, I need to have some idea of what meals we're having for the day. So when doing my check-ins, I either end up preparing different meals, which is not ideal, or negotiating with my tummy. Yes, so you're either preparing meals or you're negotiating with your tummy to try and get it to eat what it maybe doesn't want, but it's what you made, and that's convenient because you're making it for everybody. Absolutely. Just an observation. My tummy apparently really likes sardines for breakfast. I love that. I had such weird ones as well. Something I never really eat, but do like. It's fascinating how foods just come to my mind while checking in. Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Okay, so the challenge is, you've got a family to feed. You can't necessarily just get whatever the hell your tummy feels like. And at the moment, it sounds like what your tummy is actually wanting is conflicting with how you're feeding your family or what your family enjoys eating. So yeah, we got a bit of a pickle on our hands. I know that this requires more time, but if you're noticing when you're checking in with your tummy, you're regularly getting certain cravings that you enjoy that maybe your family legit doesn't like. Maybe you are just somebody who legitimately just loves having a salad at dinner time or with your meal. But maybe you've got 3 boys and they all want to eat totally differently to you. So I guess what I'm saying is, in this instance, if you're noticing this need for something that's not in what you're making your family, you can either just make yourself, there'll be 2 meals, or I think what's better is to try and give yourself a bit of both if you can. So if you start making, say, a salad with the meals, and most people don't eat the salads, that's fine. You'll have some left over for lunch if you're choosing to eat that tomorrow. Check in with your tummy. We're creatures of habit. We do tend to like the same things, and you will find generally you'll get very similar cravings all the time, very similar check-in information. And what's so wonderful about checking in is once you start to find what your body really enjoys and thrives off, where you get energy and you have more focus and it's not too uncomfortable physically or mentally, it just hits the spot. And once you start to discover those foods, and they're often quite surprising, like sardines for breakfast, I'm very much, I've totally discovered that I'm a savory person in the morning. I can have a wrap for breakfast. I'll be happy as. I can have a bowl of curried lentil soup for breakfast, and I'll be happy as Larry. So once I discovered that, it was just so much easier to then begin to prepare and make meals that are aligned with that. But I hear what you're saying. I'm also somebody who doesn't enjoy a lot of meat, but my husband enjoys a lot of meat. And so instead of having to make 2 meals, I'm just open to eating more meat than I probably need. Is it a train smash? No. Is it affecting my health? Not that I can tell. So eating more meat than maybe my tummy would have chosen, but not a big deal, not a big problem. So find the middle ground that works for you. But I think in this beginning phase, there's going to be some testing and some learning. And once you know your rhythms and once you know what you enjoy, you will come to incorporate that into the meals that you're making for your family. And hopefully your family will begin embracing some of the foods that you love as well. And that, of course, would be ideal. So I hope that answered your question. It's not an easy answer. It does require a bit of it being difficult at first, but I'm sure you're going to find your rhythm, because I think the worst thing in the world would be for you to forever and always have to eat something different to your family. So maybe it's time to start testing out new recipes until you find things that everybody loves and that really work for you. All right, what else we got? Initially, I didn't think headworms were really an issue for me, but after taking notice, I can't believe how they just creep in for no reason and how mean and damaging they are. Tell me about it. Isn't it insane how cruel we can be to ourselves? I'm still battling to get through a day without a binge, and the headworm that is pestering me at the moment is that I binge but I don't purge, and I'm envious of those who do purge and can maintain their weight that way, as I am putting on weight and at an alarming rate. The shame in that thought alone is causing me so much pain. That's a big one. So the headworm that's pestering you is envy for what others are doing. So this is interesting. I think I got this from Mel Robbins. I'm sure it was. She says, jealousy is always a sign of what we truly want. And so now when I feel jealous or envious when I see somebody on Facebook and I think, oh God, and I feel that the green envy pop up, I always think, oh, this is telling me what I want. Now, I don't believe for a second that what you want is an additional awful behavior on top of an already awful behavior that you're trying to stop. I know, because I've met you, what you want is to have a healthy relationship with food and to be in a body that feels really good on you. And so I know you're in the suck right now because you're doing your best, but you're putting on a bit of weight and it feels like it's never going to stop. And it's still probably hard to hear your tummy and to listen to all those headworms. And there's a period of acclimatization in recovery. as we sort of fluctuate a bit, and then we start to find the things that work for us, and then we just slowly chip away at the listening piece until we're really feeling in tune with our body. It sounds for you like your journey will include some weight loss down the line. And the more you're listening to your body and the more you get good at stopping when you're full and just being calm and getting that clear signal and knowing what you enjoy, your body will adjust, your body will change, and you'll have more energy for longer and all those beautiful benefits. And slowly all that sort of excess weight that happened purely out of binge behavior, not because it's what your body wanted, but purely out of binge behavior, will begin to fall away, will begin to fall off. And it'll happen in the most wonderful and kind of unexpected ways. So it's coming for you. I know it is. However, you're in the suck right now as your body adjusts and learns. And if I were in your mind, if I was in your position, I would probably also feel super envious of somebody who could just get rid of it all by purging. However, knowing what I know, the truth of that is, and you know I'm going to say this, and you probably don't really want to actually purge, you're not really envious of that. The truth of the matter is that it can be harder to stop disordered eating when there's such an easy, like pressure release valve, when there's such an easy out. It's so easy to do, and it's so effective that it's even harder to stop. What's good about working with clients who are struggling with binge eating is that it's so awful that the desire is stronger to get the behavior overridden faster. I know that's not what you truly want. What you truly want is to have a good relationship with food and be in a body you enjoy. And everybody understands that feeling, and that's coming for you. So there's no shame in having that thought. I think that's completely understandable. You can let go of all shame around it. If there's shame in carrying extra weight, that's going to be a lot harder, because we live in a world that values thin, where thin is equated to success and money and power and all these things, and fat is equated with all the things we don't want in life. And unfortunately, that is the social situation, the media situation that we're in at the moment. We can't pretend that's not happening. And so you are in the muck and you're dealing with a bit of extra weight gain, and you'll need to condition your mind into a space of, this is temporary, short-term pain, long-term gain, not weight gain, but pleasure. I'm going to find what I'm looking for. Keep focused on what you know your body's capable of becoming. You know where you're going to feel amazing in your body. Keep that vision in your mind. Be clear that it's coming for you, and this is the way you're going to get there. And it will happen. If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. That is the rule. And in the meantime, just be very compassionate with yourself. Keep connecting to your inner beauty, reminding yourself continually that you are not unlovable just because you're carrying a few extra pounds or kilos. It's hard to do this, and yet it must be done, because if we don't give ourselves a break, and if we're not willing to go through the muck, and I know you to be somebody who is willing to go through the muck, we will keep hitting the wall of weight gain fear or weight gain whatever, and it will keep dragging us back into an eating disorder. So you need to be really brave right now, and we know that it's hard, and please keep reaching out to anybody. Get a coaching buddy, jump on a call with me, whatever it takes, because the weight gain barrier is really hard to get through, and yet I promise you it's not forever. So even more incentive, even more reason to keep doing the work of listening to your body, trying to give yourself just the right amount to be comfortable and neutral, not too full, to notice when you're going over, when you're eating more than you need, all these things. I know you haven't got as far into the course as to getting to stop when you full and indulgence, but those skills are coming. And in the meantime, I love that you're making the effort to practice listening to the headworms and to checking in with your tummy. Keep it up. I promise you, the stuff is going to stack, and it will work out. But I just want to say I honor how hard that is. Okay, and the last question for today. I haven't been binging and purging for almost a month now. Woo! The problem is that I keep doing a very silly thing sometimes, which is chewing food and spitting it out. Sorry if that sounds disgusting, but that's what's happening. Hey, it doesn't sound disgusting at all. You're talking to somebody who was throwing up their food, 3 to 7 times a day. And I want you to know that it's not super common, but people do it. Um, I've always been doing this, even when I was purging. I guess it felt safer than eating all that food. Yeah, of course it felt safer, absolutely. Chewing food kind of gives me the satisfaction of tasting the food I crave, but with less of the guilt. You didn't say this, and the repercussions if I don't swallow it. It's happening less and less, but the behavior is still there. I was wondering if anyone else has this problem too. And if you don't, please don't even think it's a good idea to start. Yes, you're so right. This is just another behavior you're going to have to get rid of. It's highly addictive, this behavior. It's super easy, which makes it even harder to stop. This is actually relates perfectly to the question I just answered. So absolutely, yes, other people do it. Absolutely. I find it much easier to stop vomiting than to actually stop this chewing thing. Yes, because the chewing thing feels like it's not dangerous enough to make you want to stop it. But carrying on, that will lead to an unhealthy relationship with food forever, which will bring binging and purging back at some point in an endless circle. Yes, you're absolutely right. So, how do I get rid of that? It's a big question, but it has the same answer as everything else, as all purging behaviors, I guess. I can hear you want to stop it. And also, there's a part of you that doesn't want to give up the restriction because, of course, purging is always a type of restriction, even though it's a sort of an excessive type of restriction. You nailed it. By repeating the behavior, you're just keeping the pathways in the brain lit up. And I remember I had a coach many years ago who said, you could use chewing gum. Actually, no, I had a coach who suggested chewing gum, and I had another coach, and she was spot on, who said, the problem with chewing gum is it just keeps the behavior going. It keeps you in the practice of relentlessly eating. And she was spot on. And this is the same thing. So I didn't do chewing and spitting, but it's the same concept, isn't it? If we're trying to satisfy, we're actually hungry. And so we're giving ourselves this taster without giving ourselves what our bodies really need. And I think, like everything else, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. But I know that you want to get rid of it, and you must get rid of it because you're absolutely right. If you don't, then the behavioral pathways are still there, and the binging and purging just could come back full throttle at that point sometime in the future. So just tackle this behavior just like you tackle all the others. Well done for smacking the binging and vomiting on the head. Wonderful. Now you've got a little bit of chewing and spitting that needs taken care of. Same procedures. Still tummy check-ins, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Still watching for headworms, still being very aware and noticing what's going on for you. And most importantly, you can have a little chew and spit busters account because every time you spit in food out, you're wasting money. So sure, it may only be €1 or €2, but it's giving you a high level reward for something. If you haven't done it and you reward yourself for not doing it, you're going to get an actual tangible reward. On top of which you can feel real proud because this is a much harder habit to kick than, as you say, the bigger ones, because it's so easy, so kind of acceptable, so easy to get away with, and isn't as destructive. However, let's not lie, it still does have some destructive components to it, at the very least, your teeth. So that's even more money saved because now you're going to be protecting your wonderful teeth as well. Yeah, so there's the answer to the question. Just use all the same techniques, but just adjust the languaging of them for chewing and spitting. And you will get there to keep up all the great work, because to be not binging and purging after decades of doing it on and off, all of it, all of those wins count. And keep up the great work. Keep putting the pressure on. Keep prioritizing this work. It's absolutely essential that you don't take your foot off the gas at this point. Keep it going. So please keep us posted with how that's going. Thank you for your question. I'm sure there are people out there who are like, oh, finally, somebody's talking about what's happening for me. Those questions were humdingers. So if you're watching them and you want to get involved in the course, you want to be able to ask me questions once a week and get that kind of detailed answer, then click on the link below to the 12 Skills of Bulimia Freedom. You'll get access to the online coaching portal immediately. You get 3 days of pre-course training videos where you essentially set yourself up mentally for what's coming. And then once a week, every week for a period of 12 weeks, you get access to a bundle of training videos and bonus videos where you learn a new skill that you can begin to practice, implement, and master in order to truly take your recovery by the balls and turn it around so that this becomes the last time you ever have to invest in your freedom. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you're interested, click on the link below, and I look forward to seeing you in the course.